Every year I've been having to top up my battery by charging it on a smart charger. I use an Optimate, and this year I've left it a little bit longer because I do a lot of short journeys and the battery's quite old, and it was starting to get lazy to start. So I thought, well, most normal people would then just charge the battery, but I decided to let my battery run absolutely flat. So it's dead. The battery is dead. I've got the key in the ignition, and I've got nothing at all. Won't even bring up dash lights, no interior lights, nothing. So I thought I'd show you how you can revive a dead battery using an Optimate smart charger. So we'll go inside, get the battery disconnected, go inside, and I'll see you in there. See you in a mo. This is a smart charger as opposed to a trickle charger, and the beauty of these is you really can't go too far wrong. You just plug them in, connect up to the battery, plug them in, turn them on, and if your battery is beyond help, it'll tell you. It'll try and revive the battery. It gives a charge in a very low current, so it's very safe. I could actually leave this on the car and it would charge it absolutely fine. The only problem is with this being the Optimate 4, this is the box here, and like I say, it was bought for my motorbike. This is the 4, so it's really only for batteries up to 50 amp hours. And this battery, I'm not entirely sure of the specs, but I think it's around about 75 amp hours. So I should really be using the Optimate 5 or 6. And the main difference is really that they just supply charge at a higher rate that the battery can cope with. That said, this works absolutely fine, but it's a little bit like filling a bath with mugs of water. It takes quite a while, so I'm going to leave this on for around about 24 hours. I think it's going to take for it to fully charge. I don't need the car, I can use my motorbike, and and it just saved me. I've not had to buy a battery as a result, because I just keep everything going with this. The battery is currently technically in a discharge state. Might just be able to see the reading there you can see it's at 12.1 volts now. It's actually recovered a little bit. It was at around 11.8 volts, but anything below 12.2 or less is technically discharged. So it's a good opportunity on a discharge battery to show you how the Optimate copes. And what I've done as well, because this is a battery that you can actually maintain with water. You just use a coin rather than a screwdriver to undo these things. I should really have gloves on actually, but I've actually topped up the cells in there just to the bottom, so the water's at the bottom of the plastic there. So they're already topped up. All 6 of the cells are topped up, and it does actually not get through a lot of water, but it has needed a little bit of topping up. And all that's left now, the Optimate is actually plugged in at the wall. So I top those up with distilled water. I always keep distilled water because I'm doing different bits of work on cars. You use it on cooling systems, and you can put it in batteries as well. So I'll just put the positive lead on the battery, and then if it'll reach round the negative lead there, if I can unravel the wires and bring the Optimate to the front. And so basically what I'll do, I'll turn it on now, and it'll go through a test cycle which takes about 10 seconds, and it'll give you a status report on your battery, and as expected it's red, which means that the battery's discharged. So what the Optimate's going to do now is it's going to try and revive a discharged battery. So the red lights come on here, and it's now going to go through the recovery cycle. where it just basically delivers, if I remember right, something like 14.8 volts, something like that, at 0.8 amps. And as you can see, there's no buttons on the Optimate, there's nothing. You just plug it in, turn it on, and it does what it can, and it's never failed me yet. And if you leave it long enough, even though it's a bike charger, if you leave it long enough, even on a big, this is an 800 cold cranking amps battery, if you leave it long enough, it'll do the job. So I'll just leave it doing its stuff and pop back if it goes on to another stage. So if it's happy, if it thinks the battery isn't beyond help, what will happen is the red light will go out. This red light will go out, and it'll actually move over onto a charging cycle then, and that'll take several hours, and the indicators will tell you where it's up to. So we'll come back to it and see how it gets on. Okay, well that's a bit of a result. After about half an hour of it being on the recovery cycle, the red light went off and it's now on the charging cycle. So the battery isn't beyond help, and the Optimate is now happy for it to go through a full charging cycle. So that's a great start. So I'll leave this overnight now. I don't think anything different will be happening. This will just keep going and keep going until the battery can't take any more. And what it'll then start doing is it'll start delivering the charge at different rates, in pulses, and you'll see these lights going up and down. But that's the first phase over. So the battery lives to fight another day. It's not dead and buried, and that's great. So we'll see what it's like in the morning. Okay, well I've got up this morning and everything's all going to plan. The constant charging of the battery is now done, so it's now doing this pulse charging, where it just delivers around about 14, just over 14 volts, something like that, in a variety of pulses from 0.2 to 0.5 to 0.8 amps. And this is a little bit like if you were filling a big saucepan, say you'd had the tap on full to fill a saucepan, and then you just put in little bits of water in then just to finish topping it up so it doesn't overflow. This is a little bit like what it's doing now, and it'll go through this phase for as long as it needs until it feels the battery is full, and then it'll just go right down to 0.2 amps, just tiny little bits of charge going into the battery. And if I get the multimeter leads on, you can probably see those pulses represented. There you go. What does it go down to? 14.19 up to 14.25. So down to 13.9. So there's all this variety of voltage and current going into the battery. Just for this it's not even the final stage. This is another one of the stages that the smart charger goes through. So that's good. All is good at the moment, and so I'll leave it, and when it goes on to the next bit, we'll come back. So we're at the second to last phase now. All the charging is complete, and it's taken around about 18 hours to get to this stage from having a discharged battery. And the battery's no longer being charged. There's no other charge lights on or anything. There's just the power light for the Optimate charger and the voltage retention light, this green flashing light here. So if I hook up the multimeter, we'll have a stable voltage. There we go, 12.96 volts, which, considering we were starting from a discharge battery of 12.1 volts, that's fantastic. So this little smart charger has got the battery back from you know, from death to a state now where it's able to start the car in the space of about 18 hours. If it was the higher Optimate 5 or 6, it might take a little bit less than that, maybe 12 to 14 hours. So I could put this back on the car, but I'll just leave it to finish doing its voltage retention test. If it fails that test and it's lost more charge than the Optimate is happy with, the charge light will come back on, this yellow light, and it will apply more charge. If it passes the test, this light will go solid green, and it will just every now and then just apply a small amount at 0.2 amps, maybe around about 0.4 volts, something like that, just to keep the battery ticking over, and it will just then continue on that cycle of voltage retention and topping up for as long as you want, really. So I could put it on the car, but I'll leave it as it is, and we'll come back and see what happens at the end of the voltage retention test. So this is the final stage for the Optimate now. It's finished the voltage retention test, and the nice thing is we've got a nice green solid light just there. If it had failed the voltage retention test badly, you'd actually also have the yellow charge light on there, and it would be applying a much larger charge. As you can see, the main charge light is off. So it's just this tiny trickle charge just going in just to maintain the battery at peak performance. So if I hook up the multimeter now, we're at 13 volts anyway. The battery has been restored to 13 volts, and as we can see there, 13.45. So it's just 0.4 or so volts being applied at 0.2 amps, which is just tiny. It's minuscule, really. And this is where the smart charger is better than a trickle charger, because a trickle charger will just keep throwing, albeit a small amount of charge, but a trickle charger will throw a small amount of charge in constantly, regardless of whether the battery needs it. Whereas the smart charger will throw in now, it'll just do this tiny bit of charge, and it won't do it constantly. It'll do it for another half hour or so, something like that. Then it stops applying the charge, and it goes back onto the voltage retention test with the flashing green light, and it just alternates between that. And that's why you can leave these hooked up for days, weeks, months, and that's the beauty of it. Just this, physically it's probably about the 10th of the size of the battery, and obviously you can see from the size of the leads, this isn't going to boost the battery. This isn't going to get you out of an emergency situation, but if you use it as a prevention, this will keep an old battery ticking over for as long as you want, really. Obviously the battery is past its best at the end of the day. It's 13 years old, and if you think of it like dog years, it's like this battery being, 91 years old or something. It's due a telegram from the Queen. So if a 91-year-old got a clean bill of health, from a hospital, it doesn't mean that they can start running marathons and what have you. For me to keep this battery going, I would literally just have to use it for starting the car, have reasonable length journeys, and that's it. I can't really sit in the car with, listening to the radio and, watching films on my phone and stuff like that, using the Bluetooth. I can't be doing any of that. But the Optimate has restored the battery to a point where it will start the car, and we'll go out to the car and I'll show you that now. Okay, so that's the battery back in, all connected up. It's time for the moment of truth. Ignition lights, that's a good start. And we're away. So I'm under no illusions that I know the battery is way past its best, so that's going to get changed out. But the main thing is the reason for doing the video was to show you that even the deadest of dead batteries can still be revived by the Optimate. So it's definitely a handy tool to have knocking around the house. So if you're only running one small, city car, where a new battery costs 40 quid or 30 quid or whatever, then yeah, it's not worth buying a charger just for that. But if you're running a few cars, 2 or 3 cars in the family, or like on mine where a new battery can easily be £100 or more, it can make sense to have an Optimate as part of your toolkit. So there we go, how to revive a dead battery with an Optimate, and I hope you find all of that useful, and thanks very much for watching.